Welcome back to Lakers Latest, folks, coming to you on Friday. It is officially August. We're in the first day of August. It's crazy. I cannot believe the year has gone by so fast already. We are almost about a little over a month and a half away from training camp starting, a little over 2 months away from preseason, and then probably around 2.5 months away from the regular season starting. And summer's gone by pretty quick, man. It's going to be here before we know it. So, again, beautiful day in LA where we're in the heat wave, high 80s, coming to you from Studio City. Stay cold, stay cool, drink, don't get too overheated out there. But yeah, let's get started. First bit of news yesterday, the Luka extension. So basically the clause that kind of prohibits Luka from signing an extension ends tomorrow. I forget specifically what it's called, but on August 2nd, he's officially eligible to sign an extension with the Lakers. And we saw some news that this is going to be. There's a very good chance that he's almost certainly going to sign it. And just a bit of news that there's a good chance he might sign it potentially next week, almost very close to the date that he's eligible to sign it. So I think the question with Luka is what is he going to sign it for? He has an option to sign for a 1-1, a 2-1, a 3-1. By what I mean by the +1 is with a player option, so he can sign 1 year with a player option for year 2, 2 years with a player option for year 3, 3 years with a player option for year 4. I think everything that I've been reading, and it kind of makes sense, seems that he's going to sign the full 4-year deal. Obviously, that would be the most guaranteed money for him, so naturally it would make sense. I mean, even if he were to do one of the shorter ones, it's not like he wouldn't expect it to be a Laker, after that. But yeah, so he is almost certainly going to sign that extension. He is almost probably going to sign it within the next week or two. Very good chance he could sign it within the next couple days. Not saying that's definitely going to happen, but I think there's a high probability of that happening at least the week after. And then that kind of has been that other domino that you've been waiting to fall. And again, it was never going to happen until this date of August 2nd anyway. But you obviously have to figure out what do you want the deal to be. Do you want it to be that 2-1, the 1-1, the 3-1? For the Lakers, on the Lakers' perspective, naturally you'd want it to be the 3-1. You want to guarantee you have Luka here as long as possible. You also guarantee that once he signs, you got him for 4 years. Obviously, hopefully you'll sign him into another extension after that. But you don't need to worry about, is he going to be here? What do we need to do to convince him to stay? Like, once he signs that, he's here. He's not going anywhere. They're not going to just randomly trade him. There's no Nico Harrisons in the front office that are going to do that for fun. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's obviously been a primary focus of the offseason. They knew they needed to get that done. And now, starting tomorrow, that he is eligible for it and he will be able to do it, I expect them to kind of put almost a full court press, put all their attention to that, get that done, focus on that, get that done. So that way, Pelinka and the rest of the front office can really just focus on, okay, we got everything we need to done. Now let's try and make that one last big trade to really solidify us as contenders in the NBA. Like I said, right now, I think they're right there at 4, but I think the Rockets, Thunder, and Nuggets are just a tier above everyone else in the West. So we'll see, but Luka extension is important to get done. That way you can focus on the rest of the offseason, adding those last guys on the roster, doing a potential big trade. That will be what will happen after. But once they get the Luka extension done, they can focus on everything else. So let's go to the next piece of news. There was a report out that if Nikola Vucevic is bought out from the Bulls, the Lakers would be incredibly interested. To be fair, I believe 15 to 20 teams would probably be incredibly interested. He's a very talented offensive player. Kind of similar to Ayton, just from the more of an offensive player, not a great defensive player. But he also, I think, brings a lot more to the game than Ayton. Obviously, he can shoot. Not that Ayton can, but he's a much more stretched out. He shoots a lot more. He can bring kind of like spread out the floor because he can shoot. Obviously, he also has the low post talent that Ayton does, but he is a much better passer. He's a very underrated passer. He can do a lot of things, and he's a guy, whether you want to start him or Ayton, that gives you a legitimate, very talented offensive center regardless, whether that be on the starting lineup, whether that be on the bench. Obviously, if this happens, you say, okay, what happens with Jackson Hayes? I'm not really worried about Jackson Hayes. Like, if he doesn't play that much, he doesn't play that much. He's a second center now. Would obviously be a third center if Vucevic came. But yeah, Vucevic is a very talented offensive player. Obviously, he's a little bit older, but he's still a guy that can get you 17 to 20 points a game. 9 to 11 rebounds, 3 to 4 assists, maybe 2 to 4. But he's a very talented offensive player, and I think the Lakers, obviously, like, we probably expect them to make that big trade. But if you're going off the predication that they're done making trades, they're just going to do the Luka extension, and then they're going to wait out to fill out the roster, Vucevic is probably the best you're going to do. I mean, obviously, they already did a pretty good job getting Marcus Smart. They kind of pounced on him the moment he became available. They got him. He's a really solid addition. And Vucevic obviously isn't a guy who has an insane amount of playoff experience or like championship experience, but at the end of the day, he's still he would be he's a little bit more than a role player. You know, he's a guy who could conceivably be a six man if you put him on the bench. So maybe it's like, okay, maybe if you, for example, start Marcus Smart and then you have like Austin Reeves, Vucevic coming off the bench, potentially connect with him still being there, Vanderbilt. Now all of a sudden that bench unit's looking really, really good. Now I'm not saying this is definitely going to happen. The other part of the report was, and this is kind of obvious because of his salary, but they would only be interested in him if it was a buyout, which again, from a salary perspective, you would have to trade. I mean, you probably have to trade like Kleba, Vanderbilt, or Gabe Vincent, but it's a very intriguing option. Obviously, there's no guarantee he's going to agree to a buyout deal with the Bulls, but the Bulls aren't going anywhere. You know, they're getting younger. They want more young guys to play. It's not inconceivable that they could come to a buyout agreement with Nikola Vucevic. And I think if that does happen, it'll probably happen before training camp, probably a little bit before training camp. So if that were to happen, I would expect it to happen over the next 2 weeks. Whether it actually does happen and he becomes available, that's another story. But if he does, the Lakers definitely have to pounce on him. He would be a great addition to the bench or conceivably to the starting lineup. But I think that if Aiden came off the bench, he would not be too happy about that. And I could potentially mess with his mindset again. And we've talked about that, how important that is. So, yeah, keep an eye on that. But he would be a very good addition to the Lakers if he were to become available after a potential buyout. All right, so now let's hop into Jared Vanderbilt. So Jared Vanderbilt, to me, is a little bit of a polarizing player. I think when he initially got traded, he had such a strong defensive impact. He's a really good offensive rebounder, can deflect balls, can defend a bunch of different guys. I think really, like, when he first got here, that's part of the reason you signed him to that extension. You really saw what he could do on the court when he was 100% fully healthy and playing to the best of his capabilities. Now, obviously, in the 2 years since, it's been a little up and down. He's gotten hurt a lot. He hasn't played as much. He hasn't been fully healthy all the time. But if you can kind of just remember, like, that Jared Vanderbilt that you had a few years ago, like, he was, and it's not like he's a 28-year-old who's not like 31, 32. Like, he's 25. This is still a very, very young player with not too much miles on him, has a ton of years left in the NBA. If he could come out of the offseason, fully healthy, fully integrated, ready to go, focused, I think he can be a pretty solid contributor to this team. Now, obviously, like, you're not going to create offensive plays for him. He's not going to be a guy that shoots too much. I mean, he'll shoot the occasional three, but that's not his game. His game's pick and roll, getting rebounds, energy on offense and defense. And I think that's something that this team just really needs. Like, you need that energy. You need someone on the bench to keep pushing that energy. You can have Austin Reeves, you can have Vucevic, but you kind of need some guys to bring that strong defensive energy too. And that effort that you're going to fight for every loose ball, fight for every offensive rebound, fight for every defensive rebound. And Vanderbilt can be that guy. We've seen him be that guy before. But the key is health. Like, he's got to stay healthy. He's had a bunch of freak injuries, small injuries, but staying healthy has definitely been the biggest issue for him in his Laker tenure. And I think that should be the focus. I hope he's kind of worked on maybe his conditioning, maybe strength, so that maybe the injuries that have been happening don't happen as much or as frequently. But yeah, Jared Vanderbilt is a guy that I've always liked. I liked him before he came to the Lakers. And I think even when he came to the Lakers, you really saw what he was capable of in that first year. And I think, and I'm hoping, that we get a really motivated, ready to go Vanderbilt for this year so we can see that similar player. Because like I said, it's not like this guy's past his prime. He's 25. Still 7 years younger than me. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, he's still got a ton left in the tank. And it's going to be up to JJ to see what he can get out of him. So we will see what happens there. And let's finish it on South Bay Lakers. What player who was on South Bay, who is going to be on South Bay, will make an impact on the actual Lakers, if any at all? Again, certainly a possibility that no one does. But if we were looking at who would, I think we look at two guys. Obviously, Bronny's going to be the first guy that comes up because of who he is, but also because he's improved his game. I mean, obviously, he started off slow in the G League last year, played way better near the end, had a much, much more improved summer league. Now, when I say make an impact on the Lakers, I'm not expecting any of those guys to, break into a legitimate spot in the rotation. I'm not expecting Bronny to come in here, take, Marcus Smart's minutes and play 20, 25 minutes a game. Like, that's not going to happen. I think the most important thing with those guys is just being ready if your number's called upon. So, Bronny, keep working. Obviously, he's also going to be on the team at points, but just keep working on your game, anything. So that way, if someone gets hurt, if it's a Vincent or another player, you're just ready to go. And I think Summer League was a really strong starting point for Bronny, and now it'll be exciting to see how he builds off that. Again, not expecting him to be a legitimate contributor to the rotation, at least not right away. I think he would have to do a ton throughout the season to really become a legitimate part of that rotation. But he would be the first guy. I think the next guy, and it's not a lock, he's going to be on the South Bay Lakers, but Cole Swider, guy we saw play really, really well during Summer League. He brings a lot of skills, his shooting, his size to the team, and I think, especially playing with Luka and LeBron, you need shooters. You need guys who have height, who can go around, who can catch and shoot, who are kind of in that area of just really good shooters, know their spots. And I think Swider is one of those guys. And I think, obviously, if I'm assuming he will be on the South Bay Lakers, barring a big preseason or training camp performance. Obviously, he had a great summer league performance, but we need to see more than that before we determine if you're actually going to get minutes. But yeah, he would be the other guy to keep an eye on because I think he will almost certainly be on the South Bay Lakers, or if he's good enough, he's on the Lakers. But I think he'll be the other guy that could potentially make an impact. I don't know what the plan is yet with Thiero. I think he probably will be on the team, but it wouldn't surprise me if they send him down at points to the G League, to South Bay Lakers, where he can maybe potentially focus more on his offensive game, get more minutes, consistent minutes, so he's not just, sitting watching every game, even though there is important things to sitting and watching every game. But for the most part, I think he's going to be on the team, but at the same time, probably shifting between the Lakers and the South Bay Lakers most of the year. But those three guys are definitely the top three guys that I think could have an impact if they were going to have an impact. Again, impact just means maybe they fill in for someone who's injured. Maybe potentially if they play so well, they take a rotation spot, but that would be very rare. But yeah, those three guys are definitely the three guys I would focus on in regards to the South Bay Lakers, on who could potentially make an impact, even if it is a small impact on the actual Laker team. So we'll see. Obviously, a lot to go. I think, like I said, we'll expect that Luka extension sometime within the next 2 weeks. And then Pelinka and Rob could really focus from there on how do we want to, tie a bow on this offseason, whether that be adding a Vucevic, whether that be trading for a Wiggins or a Monk or a Drew Holiday. The options are on the table, and it's up to Rob to finish it off in stride and make sure that this team is ready to go and at their full capacity to contend by the time the NBA season starts. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see how the rest of the offseason plays out. But that's all for me today. I'll catch you guys later. Until next time.